higher love is the love of consciousness. It's the love of God. It's the love of taking away from all our emotions and humanness. It's the unconditional, pure love that we all want to experience. But some of us don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
But we all would very much like that. And if we all had that, the world would be a very different place.
Welcome to the podcast.
Lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm very, very grateful. And for anyone who doesn't know Lisa or hasn't come across Lisa's work before, Lisa is a hypnotherapist, Reiki Master. She specialises in Kundalini Awakenings within her Innerdance and works within shamanic practice. And to start off the podcast, I wanted to dive in with the question that I'm going to combine the first two questions. What was your life like before your spiritual awakening? And how did your early years living in Bali and sort of starting your career as a successful former model and TV presenter, how did that impact your life's journey in a way that led you towards sort of healing within your inner dance, your Reiki healing, and so on?
Okay. Which one do I answer first? Okay, so I was born in Singapore and I grew up in Indonesia and Bali. I had an amazing childhood. I was really lucky. So I grew up in a Muslim country, I guess. And then with Bali, it's like a mixture of Hinduism, and they have their own religion. So they're very spiritual people. Everything's about giving offerings to their gods multiple times a day. They're lovely, they're gentle, they're kind. I guess I grew up with those values and ethics. And I grew up in a place that different religions and different people were tolerated and respected and enjoyed. So that's my background. And then, of course, living in Indonesia, I was the minority because everyone was Indonesian and everyone's Muslim. And I wasn't 6 foot tall when I was little, but I was always pretty tall and blonde. So I kind of stood out quite a lot. So that was also interesting. And then after living abroad for so long, I came to England and I was discovered in fashion at I had my first picture taken when I was 12. And then my career took off at age 14 when my mum entered my picture into Elle's face of 87. It's that long ago, Sathya, before you were born, probably.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was a very long time ago. And anyway, consequently, I ended up winning. And because I was underage, there was I had a lot of press interested in my story because there was a big debate whether models should be under 16 or not. And the debate still goes on nowadays. It's the same thing. So because of that, I was on breakfast TV. I was like literally thrown in the deep end. So I was at this point in a convent in Romsey in Hampshire. We'd moved back to England. My life was literally growing up on a beach and then suddenly being thrown into the spotlight, live TV at age 14 was just like, it was a lot.
Was that at 14 years old that you were?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Television and live television.
Yeah, so I won the competition actually on my 15th birthday. My very first job was a cover of Elle. My second job was the Ralph Lauren campaign, and then my career took off. So I never wanted to be in fashion. My goal in life was to work with horses, to work with animals, because ever since I was a little girl, one of my things is I've always collected, waifs and strays and mended them and put them back together again and then let them out. Because I thought I wanted to help animals in some way. And then because I can be quite bossy, I thought a mounted policeman would be perfect. I could boss people around and have my horse. Sounds like the best job ever. In hindsight, it's probably really good I didn't go into that because I'm the toughest person in the world. And to be a policeman, you have to be very boundaried and very tough. But yeah, my career took me to traveling around the world. And I was terribly lonely, though, Sathya. I didn't enjoy it. I just wanted to be at home with my horse, around my animals. And I didn't want to be constantly looked at, poked at, touched all day long, hair and makeup, which for some people they find amazing. It's nice in small doses for me, but all day long, someone fiddling with me, I find it a lot in my space. And also, the traveling alone all the time. I was very lonely. So my career lasted for about 30 years. So clearly I wasn't that miserable in it, because it lasted a very long time. And I was really lucky. I met amazing people. And then like 17 years ago, I had a life-changing event where I guess I was always looking for something else to do other than fashion. And I was already in TV, but it was doing fashion programs. But I was always more interested in what happens on the inside. I've never been that interested in the other things. And then through my life-changing incident, I needed time to take time out, because the father of my kids died, as you know, and my father died at the same time. So I took time out to look after my mum and look after my kids. And that's when I started working on myself for the first time. So I started doing bereavement therapy. And my bereavement therapist was a Reiki Master. So she taught me how to do Reiki as well. And then I just had this thirst of knowledge. So I did courses in cognitive hypnotherapy and NLP. And it kind of snowballed. But I didn't do this to be a therapist. I did this to learn and grow and work on myself. Then I got to a certain age and I thought, what's the point in having all this knowledge if I can't help other people with it? It's selfish for me to keep it all for me and not do anything with it. So then I started working in a hospice, and I started looking after people who were passing over, and I was doing hypnotherapy things so they could see their loved ones. And I had some amazing moments working in that hospice. It was so beautiful. And it's lovely to work with people who appreciate so much as well.
What did that sort of teach you about the soul and sort of that connection that we have to something that is greater than ourselves, and the fact that you can get beyond sort of the 3D, let's say, through healing?
Right. Yeah, great question. Okay, so when I went through my bereavement, I hadn't actually experienced bereavement first time. Yes, I have pets, but not of human beings. And when it happened, again, because of the Balinese thing, I believed in reincarnation. I believed that this wasn't the first time the only time people were going to be on this earth. But what I did do is I bought every book I could possibly find on what happens in life after death. What happens to the soul? What happens to you? I know the body dies, but what happens? And it's interesting, in all these books, they pretty much say the same thing. And so that gave me an awful lot of help, hope and I could actually feel them around me as well. And it's interesting, when you lose someone, the bit that you miss most is their physical, is that touching them. But you can pick up signs that they're around you from different ways, but you have to tap into your senses more, like the smell. You'll suddenly smell, or something will remind you of them, or that you have to tap into their energy in more subtle, sometimes more tricky ways, but they're still around us. So and I could see when I was there when my dad died, I could literally see when the soul, when he left his body, I don't know how to explain it. You could just tell. I could tell it wasn't him anymore. I could tell that bit of him had gone. And then when I started training shamanically, we do this thing called soul retrieval, which is a technique that when you go through trauma or heartbreak or anything like that, they believe that your soul gets fractured or a bit breaks off. And so what you do, you can also do the same technique in hypnotherapy, is you get your client, and then through journeying, which is like a trance-like state, you can go and find that soul piece and put it back. So through my experience of losing people, and then my shamanic work on top, I discovered the soul and what souls are all about. And it was more tangible for me.
Yeah. And I know we touched on that briefly last time we were together, about also the idea that through a traumatic experience, sometimes a part of that inner child does slightly detach or come away from us. And moving on towards your work within Kundalini Awakenings and Innerdance. Innerdance is all about the senses and sort of coming back. When I did the experience with you, for anyone listening, I did my first Innerdance experience with Lisa, and it was very transformative.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the senses and coming into a state where we're resting and we're lying down within that sort of process of the Innerdance, I noticed, at least, is that I had to almost bring my nervous system, I had to calm it down, and you're almost going back into a state where your energy is feeling a lot safer, because often in day-to-day we're quite heightened with our senses, but it's tapping into the senses from a calm nervous system, and at least that's how I experienced it. How would you, I know you described it to me, but the description and what goes on behind in a dance with the mind and the music and the senses, would you be open to dive into,
Sure.
yeah, into inner dance and what it does to the body in connection to the senses?
So inner dance is a method. We call it Kundalini activation. It's that's one terminology for it, but it's activating your own life source. You could call it chi as well. It's the same thing. And what it does is you lie on a yoga mat in Shavasana, which is surrender. You know, you're lying there with your hands up and you're in surrender. You're very right in what you said. We're constantly on our heads. We're constantly on the go. You know, as you said, our nervous system is like this because there's so many things going on. We have so many devices that we have to like. And what inner dance is, it gives you the chance to go away from that, to go away from your brain and tap into your body intelligence, because you're going to be tapping into the brain and your stomach. You know, they're completely connected. Your stomach gives, it is your brain. They actually say it's probably the first brain.
Say you've got the gut, the mind, gut.
100%. And that has so much intelligence. So what we do in inner dance is we try to shut off the thoughts, I guess, close down the thoughts, so that you just go off into the journey of the music and you just let your body heal and you let your body somatically release what doesn't serve it. So when you experience trauma, as much as you do talking therapy, which is amazing, it's still in your body because it's stored on a cellular level. So by doing energy work and body work, you can get out of your body too. And how inner dance works is you listen to music that it's quite complicated the way that the music is structured. So there are many layers of sound which work with your brainwave. So it takes you to a place of dreaming awake. So it takes you, because you get to the REM state quicker, you can have dreams but be awake. It's like lucid dreaming. So, and you're very much aware of what's going on in the room at the same time as also being in an altered state somewhere else. So what happens is that you can entrain, our brains are already entrained. Like the hypothalamus works with our temperature, our emotions, and within that there is a super charismatic nucleus, which is a part of neurons, and it reacts very strongly to music. And that's the bit that that also corresponds to our third eye, the shamanic eye. So when we play certain types of music, it activates this part of our brain which gives us visions. So you can get those visions often by doing breath work, or by doing, like, sometimes when you do it very deep in meditation, or by taking plant medicine. But actually what happens within a dance, it activates the chemicals already within us, so you don't need to externally take anything to get to the place to have these visions, these downloads, and the energy moving around your body.
Right.
Does that explain it okay? It's quite hard to explain, Sathya.
Yeah, it's quite hard to explain, especially, I mean, I know I understand the sort of laws within the music and what it does, but for someone that is sort of, because I think the whole point of this podcast is to sort of spread the message and the healings that are open to people to awaken and come more into themselves. But that was a brilliant explanation, because it talks about, like you said, the body intelligence, and that we can step away from the monkey mind, and that actually more of the healing and the growth comes from our body, and it comes from what we store energetically in the body. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And so moving forward, I was really curious, because I didn't know too much about the shamanic practitioner side of your work. And I was curious as to what got you into the journey of understanding the shamanic practice, and did you have any experiences of shamans on your journey to this type of healing?
Okay, so I had never really heard of shamanism until the past, 10 years ago. And I grew up in a household where my brothers were terrified of ghosts. So therefore, they would constantly tease me. I was locked in the dark basement, and like the ghost was coming to get me and all this. So I was absolutely terrified as a little girl. And it was all my brother's stuff. That was never me. I just took on their fear. And then about when was it? About 10 years ago, a while ago, I'd got to a point where my kids left. They left home, and it must have been about 7 years ago, something like that. And a girlfriend of mine, and I said I was feeling a bit lost. I had like an empty nest syndrome. And as much as I'd done all these courses and learnt all these things, I felt as if something was missing. And a girlfriend of mine called Donna Lancaster, who's also a therapist, she was suggested to going to a meeting, a shaman meeting. I was like, okay, fine. Never heard of it, didn't know the term, but whatever. Anyway, I went to this little church hall. It was all a bit weird, and I was sitting on the floor, and they started playing the drums. And Sathya, the weirdest thing happened. I had this stirring in me. It was like this. I felt it in almost like my belly. This kind of like remembrance of something that I'd heard from many lives many times before. It was like, I know this.
Was that with the drums that you were hearing?
With the drums, yeah, with the drums.
Wow.
And then after I heard the drums, I was getting visions. I was seeing stuff, and I was just like, actually, this rhythm is taking me somewhere. It was taking me to a trance state. That was what was happening. And then they introduced the idea of working with spirit. Now, spirit, I just thought it was ghosts. And actually, I was so wrong. It's that you get the spirit of everything, a spirit of a flower, a spirit of a leaf, a spirit of my dog. There's spirits everywhere. And shamanism's all about seeing the spirit in everything and appreciating, valuing, and using particularly the elements in order to enhance our lives and get the best from ourselves and for others. So it's a very respectful way of living and of being, shamanism.
Amazing.
And also to be a shamanic practitioner, you have to. It's tough. They put you through, life, really difficult things and trials and like.
Touch on that actually.
Yeah.
If that's okay. No, because I think that's what I was very much interested to find out as well, was the sense of the shadow self, and that sort of we all carry that light in the dark within the spirit of us. Did you find yourself having to face, I guess, certain elements of fear within that process?
Yeah, because they set us up to have a near-death experience, and what would happen to us and how would we be in that. And there were times. That's the thing with shamanic stuff. You're not meant to talk about it, Sathya. So I don't want to be. I'm being a little bit vague and a little bit cagey here. They set up the environment so that you get scared to see how you would react within it and who you are as a person. And I found that when I was in those circumstances, I was actually perfectly fine. So the whole near-death experience for me is I just felt closer to God. I had other participants were screaming and all these things. I was embracing all of it because I was just like, this is incredible. I can really feel what it's like to be connected to a higher source, and it taught me a huge amount. So I use shamanism in everything I do now. Even when I'm doing in a dance. I'm drumming, which is a shamanistic thing to do. Most in a dance facilitator, they don't usually use a drum, but I bring that into my shamanism into every part of my life now. It's really helped me.
Amazing. Yeah, no, the drums definitely. You just feel it, something sort of pounding through the chest. I mean, it's like when you hear the bass of music and it's rumbling, you can feel that through the body. And when I'd be in a dance, I was definitely feeling that drum, and the sort of where the sound waves of the drum traveling, it kind of hits different parts of the body. And I guess as well, with that sense of awakening the Kundalini, also, would you be able to touch on, just for anyone that isn't aware, what a Kundalini energy is? Because that's sort of connects with the inner dance. Would you be able to elaborate on the Kundalini?
Yeah, the terminology is a Hindu one, and it's a Kundalini energy is a female energy that is in your base chakra, which is your neococcyx. It's and when you activate that, you feel like surges going up your body. So it's like, that's why a lot of times if you see people doing CAP or inner dance, CAP came from inner dance, you see people like arching back, like making almost like snake-like movements. It's because this is the energy coming over their body, and they're arching because of the energy coming up into their body. So it is your energy. It's not a foreign energy. It's yours. And all we're doing is as a facilitator, I am giving you the tools in order to activate that energy within yourself. And that's why I like inner dance. It's not all about the facilitator. It's not about me. It's about you. You can do it for yourself. I'm just setting up the environment, and you're doing your own healing. Yeah. And I like that, because I don't think there should be a hierarchy. It's just like, because I do this, this doesn't mean I'm better than you in any way. We all have stuff to teach each other. Definitely. You know, so each client is my teacher too.
Yeah. And also the fact that I think what brings us back to that sense of oneness and equality is that a healer isn't there to heal you. It's there to awaken someone's ability to heal themselves.
100%.
And
yes.
present your shadows and go, let the light sort of expose certain parts of the dark. But I think dark isn't always a bad thing. And that's what I think a lot of sort of sometimes people is, they get really scared of that fear or that dark, which we all carry, and it's approaching it in ways that is like with the inner dance, you're approaching it from a different intelligence. It's an energetic intelligence, but your body is already carrying, and you're just unlocking. So thank you for sharing that. I was just going to move on quickly because I'm mindful of the time. So that a lot of the higher love projects, I really want to talk about self-love and sort of what self-love means to someone as an individual. And when you were moving into this work within healing and the light work, as I like to call it, did you experience any resistance when stepping into your authenticity when you were sort of getting into this type of work, moving from that career of the model and the a very material world, let's say? Did you experience any resistance?
Not when I was learning, because I wasn't learning to make this my career. So I was just learning and enjoying every second. So there was zero pressure. How I'm experiencing it is probably now, Sathya. This is something I'm working on. So it's interesting you bring it up, because I don't know, there seems to be a little bit of a stigma that if you do this kind of work, you don't get paid. You know, you should do it for the love of helping people, and then you shouldn't really get much back. And again, because I had a career that I was making an awful lot of money very easily and very quickly, it's quite hard to. It's hard I'm still trying to figure out my prices, Sathya. I'm still trying to figure out my way forward with this, because I put in so much with when I'm working. I put in an awful lot with my clients, so I can only have a few amount of clients per day, because I can't hold the energy. I just get too tired. Because you've had in a dance, it's you can experience. And it's often I'm working on multiple people at the same time, and I'm physically over their bodies, and I'm tapping into everyone's energies. And
it's something, sorry, so just touching on that, something that can be mistaken when you're acting in service is, it's sometimes people think, oh, is that you just giving your energy and helping people, and it's sort of you giving yourself to people, but you realize it's more having to reserve your own energy. The more that you do that and stay boundaried in that, you're able to give service in a much more aligned way, let's say.
Exactly.
And it's a balance.
Yeah, I'm figuring it out, my lovely. I think I still do sessions for people who don't have money for free, because I think it's all about giving things away. Same with my classes. If people can't pay for my classes, I will give spaces away for free for people who really need it. But at the same time, you know, I'm trying to figure out what my value is. So I'm looking at all of this now, and yeah, it's a tricky one for me.
I
I'd
appreciate.
rather someone else goes and negotiates all my prices and have an agent to do it, but I'm not in that position, unfortunately.
But that's still, I appreciate the honesty, and that's a part of self-love, isn't it? It's about honoring yourself, and yeah, that's definitely an ongoing journey. And I'll close this off with a few final fire questions, because
Okay.
I've had so much amazing insight from you. I'm so grateful for you being here. And sort of going sort of off the topic of self-love and trying to stay authentic to your journey or where you're at. For someone listening, what is the key in your way, or in your eyes? What is the key to living in your truth and authenticity?
It's having awareness of your actions and your words, and realizing the knock-on effects of them, of your actions and words, and realizing that what's the question again? I've just gone completely blank. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. What is the key to living in your truth and authenticity? You're doing great. You're doing great, Lisa. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, being authentic and truthful is like keeping up with the questions as well.
Yeah.
Also, I think for me is building time in the day for me. So I have like a morning that every morning I get up and I go do my walking meditations with my dog. I'm in touch with nature. I go sit under a tree every morning. This for me is self-love. This for me is authenticity. And I get that all from nature. You don't need to. And I think when I was when I was an adolescent, early in modeling, it was all about the bling. It was all about what earrings, what diamond, what's the watch. And the more I was in it, I realized actually all of that doesn't matter. I don't even wear the watches anymore. I'm wearing a teepee one. I don't wear all my bling because I don't need it, and I don't need someone to appreciate me for that. I want people to appreciate me for this. And even if I walk around in a sack, I'd rather they appreciate what for me on the inside than all of this stuff, because for so long it's been about this. And I don't care about that. I don't care what watch you're wearing or what clothes you wear. I don't care your designer outfits. I won't even notice it most of the time, unless it's really fabulous and I make a comment. But it's about that, I think. And for me, that came with age, Sathya. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I lived in a very fast pace when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I lots of mistakes. And now I'm a little bit slower and I can think things through and not be so impulsive.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And the next question is, what piece of advice would you give someone who wants to open their heart more and embark on their healing journey?
I'm suddenly thinking cacao, because that's a plant medicine. So cacao opens your heart chakra, and I do cacao ceremonies. So cacao, but only ceremonial cacao. There's a difference between what you get in the supermarkets and ceremonial. I would also suggest, you want to open your heart. Well, be your own healer. Put your hands over your heart and visualize it. Visualize your heart opening. Get in touch with nature, and just. If you want love, be love. If you want to find love, be the love you want to find. Become it, and then you'll meet it and you'll attract it to you.
Amazing. Thank you. And that sort of leads me into the final question that you pretty much answered. What does higher love mean to you?
Higher love for me is not a human love. It's not the polarity, black, white, good, bad. Higher love is the love of consciousness. It's the love of God. It's the love of taking away from all our emotions and humanness. It's the unconditional, pure love that we all want to experience. But some of us don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
But we all would very much like that. And if we all had that, the world would be a very different place.
I think so too. Lisa, thank you so much for your time and your incredible wisdom. This has been amazing. So where can people go if they want to find more about you, your work, and anyone that's in the UK as well that's interested in inner dance? Yeah, where can people go to find your work?
Well, I post all of my up and coming classes and things on my Instagram, which is Lisa Butcher Official. And then I have a website, so that's lisabutcher.com or lisabutcher.co.uk. It's the same thing. So either through both of those.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you to anyone who is listening.
And Sathya, before we go, I'd just like to thank you for making the world a brighter and better place. And I know you do that through your music, and you do that because you are a little earth angel, and you have brightened up my daughter's world, and you brightened up my world as well. So thank you for all the goodness you're putting out there, my lovely.
That's very kind words. Thank you so much, Lisa. And we will see you next time.